All right. Today, we are jumping right into Scroll. It's one of the major contenders in this high-stakes race to solve one of crypto's biggest, most persistent headaches, Ethereum's crazy high gas fees and slow transaction speeds. We're going to break down how Scroll is trying to make Ethereum faster and cheaper for all of us, without giving up an inch of the security that makes it so valuable in the first place. You know, this quote right here, it just perfectly captures the whole philosophy. This is the core belief driving projects like Scroll. The idea isn't to tear everything down and build a new internet of money from scratch. Nope. The real goal is to build a super fast express lane on top of the highway we already have. And that's exactly where this technology called zk Rollups enters the picture. A lot of people think they're the long-term solution, the holy grail for scaling Ethereum. And that's what Scroll is built on. But here's the thing, it is an incredibly crowded field out there. So the question isn't if this tech is going to take off, but which of these projects is actually going to make it to the finish line. So to really get a handle on where Scroll stands, here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll kick things off with the problem itself, then we'll look at Scroll's specific solution, check out the competition, weigh its progress against the risks, and then we'll wrap up by looking at what the future could hold for them. Okay, so let's get into it. The best way to think about Ethereum is like a super popular city highway. When everybody tries to get on it during rush hour, what happens? You get a total traffic jam. Everything slows to a crawl, and the tolls, or gas fees, just go through the roof. The real challenge here is figuring out how to add more lanes to the highway without compromising the structural integrity of the road itself. In other words, how do you get faster without sacrificing that bedrock security? zk Rollups are just an incredibly elegant solution to this problem. What they do is take a huge batch of transactions, process them all on a separate, much faster layer, and then they generate a single, tiny cryptographic proof. This little proof is the only thing that gets sent back to Ethereum. Okay, think of it this way. It's like having a world-class accountant who goes through thousands of your receipts, verifies every single one, and then just hands you a single notarized summary page. Ethereum doesn't need to check all 1,000 receipts. It just trusts the accountant's signature on that summary. It's this incredible leap in efficiency, all while inheriting Ethereum's security. So how does Scroll actually pull this off? Let's pop the hood and take a look at the architecture to see the journey your transaction takes to get secured on Ethereum. It's really a three-step dance. First, you have the sequencer. Think of it like an air traffic controller that gathers up all the user transactions and organizes them into nice, orderly blocks. Step 2, a whole network of rollers gets to work. These guys do all the heavy lifting, all the complex math to generate those cryptographic proofs for each block. And then finally, step 3, smart contracts on Ethereum itself act as the final judge and jury, verifying those proofs and stamping the transactions as final and secure. And this is Scroll's secret weapon. It's what's called EVM equivalent. Now, I know that sounds super technical, but what it means is simple and powerful. Scroll behaves exactly like Ethereum. This is a massive deal. See, a lot of other solutions are just EVM compatible, which means there are tiny differences that can cause headaches and bugs for developers. But with equivalence, a developer can take their app, their tools, everything, and just move it over to Scroll with literally zero changes to their code. It's the ultimate plug-and-play experience, and it's a huge, huge advantage when you're trying to attract builders to your ecosystem. Now, for all this powerful technology, Scroll is definitely not operating in a vacuum. It is fighting tooth and nail for users, for developers, and for liquidity, in what has to be one of the most competitive corners in all of crypto. And this right here perfectly illustrates the two main schools of thought. On one side, you have optimistic rollups. They basically run on an innocent until proven guilty model. They just assume transactions are fine unless someone proves otherwise, which is why you get those long, sometimes week-long withdrawal delays. Scroll, using zk rollups, takes the opposite approach, guilty until proven innocent. Every single batch of transactions has to be mathematically proven to be valid. There's no trust assumption, just pure cryptographic certainty, which means you get much, much faster finality. So with all that context, how is Scroll actually performing in the real world? Let's move past the white papers and the theory and actually look at the data. How is adoption stacking up against the very real risks that it's facing? Well, since its mainnet went live in late 2023, Scroll has shown some really impressive early signs of life. It's processed a pretty significant volume of transactions, it's attracted a growing number of apps, and it's locked in some key integrations and backing from major players. These are all the green flags you want to see for early-stage adoption and building trust in a new network. But of course, you have to look at the whole picture. On one hand, you have Scroll's massive strengths. its top-tier ZK tech, that game-changing EVM equivalence, and how closely it's aligned with Ethereum's own vision for the future. But the risks are just as real. The competition is absolutely brutal. Liquidity is spread thin across dozens of these Layer 2s, and, like many of its rivals, it still needs to tackle the challenge of fully decentralizing its sequencer. These are serious hurdles it has to clear.
So that brings us to the big question. Where does Scroll go from here? Given this landscape of promising tech and serious challenges, let's take a look at its roadmap and the possible futures that might be in store.
Their strategy seems really clear and focused. Priority 1, take advantage of recent Ethereum upgrades, like EIP 4084, which created a special keeper data lane for rollups to bring user fees way down. Priority 2, keep making their proof generation faster and more efficient. 3, double down on growing their developer community. And 4, the big one, make real, credible moves toward decentralizing the whole network. The endgame is to become a mature, highly efficient, and deeply compatible part of the Ethereum ecosystem. And you can really visualize 3 potential outcomes here. In the bullish scenario, ZK rollups become the industry standard, and Scroll's technical edge helps it become a dominant player. In a more neutral outcome, the market just stays fragmented, and Scroll carves out a nice spot as one of several strong competitors. And then there's the bearish case, where that fierce competition just pushes Scroll into a more niche role. Which leaves us with this one final, crucial question to think about. The need to scale Ethereum is not up for debate. It's a fact. And ZK technology is incredibly powerful. But as the dust eventually settles in this massive Layer 2 war, does Scroll have that magic combination of tech, timing, and ecosystem strategy to not just survive, but to actually become one of the definitive leaders for Ethereum's next chapter?